knows a lot about the science stuff. Professor Dave explains.
In order to discuss the complex relationships between members of a community, we have to review some concepts pertaining to individual organisms. With plants covered, let's now talk generally about animal species. What do animals like us need to survive? The cells that make up our bodies are well-organized collections of macromolecules and water. For cells to build all the molecules required to sustain life, they need certain substances called nutrients. Certain nutrients, like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and oxygen, are needed in large amounts and are thus called macronutrients. This is because they are the major building blocks of organic compounds in cells. Carbon is the primary element in all biomacromolecules, including carbohydrates, proteins, nucleic acids, and lipids. Carbon accounts for about 50% of the composition of the cell. Nitrogen is a component of proteins, nucleic acids, and other cell constituents, and most of it is available in nature in its atmospheric form, N2. Both hydrogen and oxygen are part of many important compounds, the most well-known being water. Phosphorus is required by all organisms for the synthesis of nucleotides and phospholipids. Other important macronutrients include potassium, magnesium, calcium, and sodium. Although these elements are required in smaller amounts, they are very important for the structure and function of eukaryotic cells. As we recall from the biochemistry series, proteins are organic compounds that contain carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, and sometimes iron, phosphorus, and sulfur. They are needed to grow new tissues and to repair old tissues in an animal. Proteins are made up of various combinations of up to 26 amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. Minerals are inorganic substances found in small amounts within the body. Inorganic substances are characterized by the fact that they do not contain carbon. Mineral deficiencies can result in poor weight gain and poor reproductive traits, hence their importance in animals. Minerals can be classified as macrominerals or microminerals depending on the quantities needed in the body. For example, calcium and phosphorus are needed in a certain ratio for bone growth and repair, and for other body functions. Magnesium is needed for chemical reactions in muscles and for skeletal growth. These are macrominerals, as lots of them are needed. Microminerals such as iron and zinc perform very specific functions in the body, and possessing improper levels of these can have adverse effects on bodily systems. A common micromineral deficiency in modern humans pertains to iron, which is an important component in the hemoglobin of red blood cells, thus helping distribute oxygen throughout the body. Without enough of this micromineral, extreme fatigue, weakness, and chest pains may occur. Luckily, microminerals like iron can be taken as supplements if deficiencies become an issue. Let's move on to other animals who can't take supplements like we can, so we can see how they gather all their required nutrients. Animals can be classified as plant eaters, or herbivores, meat eaters, or carnivores, and those that eat both, or omnivores. Often, the nutrients and macromolecules present in food are not immediately accessible to the body's cells. Thus, there are a number of processes that modify food within the animal body in order to make the nutrients and organic molecules accessible for cellular function. As animals evolved in complexity of form and function, their digestive systems have also evolved to accommodate their various dietary needs. For example, vertebrate herbivores, including deer, cows, and some bird species, as well as invertebrates such as crickets and caterpillars, have evolved digestive systems capable of breaking down large amounts of plant material. Herbivores can be further classified into frugivores, or fruit eaters, granivores, or seed eaters, nectivores, or nectar feeders, and folivores, or leaf eaters. In contrast with the high-level digestive functioning of herbivores, certain phyla have an extremely simple digestive system. The simplest digestive system is that of a gastrovascular cavity found in organisms with only one opening for digestion. This type of digestive system is also called an incomplete digestive tract. The phyla Platyhelminthes, or the flatworms, Ctenophora, or the comb jellies, and Cnidaria, including coral, jellyfish, and sea anemones, use this type of digestion. Their body systems feature a gastrovascular cavity, which can be described as a blind tube or cavity with only one opening, the mouth, which also serves as an anus. Ingested material enters the mouth and passes through a hollow tubular cavity. Cells within the cavity secrete digestive enzymes that break down the food. The food particles are engulfed by the cells lining the gastrovascular cavity. The organisms in these phyla are described in much greater detail over in the zoology series if you are interested in learning more about these fascinating creatures. Let's move on to the next tier of digestive function. The alimentary canal is a more advanced system. It consists of one tube with a mouth at one end and an anus at the other. This type of digestive system is also called a complete digestive tract. Earthworms are an example of an animal with an alimentary canal. Once the food is ingested through the mouth, it passes through the esophagus and is stored in an organ called the crop. Then it passes into the gizzard where it is churned and digested. From the gizzard, the food passes through the intestine, the nutrients are absorbed, and the waste is eliminated as feces, called castings, through the anus. Vertebrates have evolved more complex digestive systems to adapt to their dietary needs. Some animals have a single stomach, while others have multi-chambered stomachs, like cows. Birds, who do not have teeth like we do, have developed a digestive system adapted to eating unchewed food. Now that we've gotten a better sense of how animals obtain food and break it down into usable bits, let's talk about what they do with the energy they've obtained. Much of an animal's energy is put towards maintaining homeostasis, and thermal regulation plays a big role in keeping an animal's body balanced. The region in which an animal lives often determines how hard it needs to work to achieve and maintain thermal regulation. Polar bears and penguins must maintain a higher body temperature in their chilly homes at the poles, while kangaroo rats, iguanas, and rattlesnakes thrive in the heat of Death Valley and must come up with ways to keep their body systems cool enough to function. Many animals regulate their body temperature through behavior, such as seeking sun or shade, or huddling together for warmth. Endotherms, such as birds and mammals, can alter metabolic heat production to maintain a stable internal temperature, often one different from the environment, using both shivering and non-shivering thermogenesis. We can think of them as setting their own thermostat inside their bodies. Ectotherms, like lizards and snakes, take on the temperature of the environment. These animals need to rely on their physical surroundings to maintain ideal body temperature. Adaptations for maintaining healthy body temperatures can be behavioral, anatomical, and physiological in nature, or a combination thereof. Some adaptations increase heat production in endotherms when it's cold. Others, in both endotherms and ectotherms, increase or decrease exchange of heat with the environment. How do humans regulate their body temperature using behavior? On a hot day, you might go for a swim, drink some cold water, or sit in the shade. On a cold day, you might put on a coat, sit in a cozy corner away from the wind or snow, and eat a bowl of hot soup. Other animals have similar types of behaviors. For instance, elephants spray themselves with water to cool down on a hot day, and many animals seek shade when they get too warm. On the other hand, lizards often bask on a hot rock to warm up, and penguin chicks huddle in a group to retain heat. Some ectotherms are so good at using behavioral strategies for temperature regulation that they maintain a fairly stable body temperature even though they don't use metabolic heat to do so. One way to produce metabolic heat is through muscle contraction, such as shivering uncontrollably when you're very cold. Both deliberate movements, such as rubbing your hands together or going for a brisk walk, and involuntary ones, like shivering, increase muscle activity and thus boost heat production. Non-shivering thermogenesis provides another mechanism for heat production. This mechanism depends on specialized fat tissue known as brown fat or brown adipose tissue. Some mammals, especially hibernators and baby animals, have lots of brown fat, which contains mitochondria in large numbers with special proteins that let them release energy from their brown fat directly as heat instead of channeling it into formation of the energy carrier ATP. This process allows the animals to produce heat quickly and utilize brown fat storage to rewarm their body systems at specific times during hibernation. These rewarming events help animals decrease the overall amount of time their organ systems experience freezing temperatures. Some researchers are even studying these hibernators to try to treat Alzheimer's disease in humans, since cooling and rewarming events during hibernation seem to remove excess amounts of the protein tau that leads to Alzheimer's disease in humans. There are many different body plan strategies that animals utilize in order to maintain their ideal internal temperature. Furry mammals often have special networks of blood vessels for heat exchange located in areas of bare skin. For example, jackrabbits have large ears with an extensive network of blood vessels that allow rapid heat loss. This adaptation helps them live in hot desert environments. Some ectotherms also regulate blood flow to the skin as a way to conserve heat. For instance, iguanas reduce blood flow to the skin when they go swimming in cold water to help retain the heat they soaked up while on land. This allows them to stay underwater longer to gather food before returning to land to sun themselves and regulate their internal temperature once more. Another way to minimize heat loss to the environment is through insulation. Birds use feathers, and most mammals use hair or fur to trap a layer of air next to the skin and reduce heat loss to the environment. Marine mammals like whales use blubber, a thick layer of fat, as a heavy-duty form of insulation. In cold weather, birds fluff their feathers and animals raise their fur to thicken the insulating layer. The same response exists in humans, taking the form of goosebumps. However, this strategy is not as effective for us because of our limited body hair. In fact, it is regarded as more of an evolutionary relic from our ancestors who had more body hair than we do. Now that we've learned about how animals use energy derived from food to maintain homeostasis, let's move on to understanding the role of water in essential bodily functioning.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel for more tutorials. Support me on Patreon so I can keep making content. And as always, feel free to email me, ProfessorDaveExplains@gmail.com.